Hi, everybody. Um, First of all, thank y'all for inviting me. And I sit up here and I listen to everyone, and with respect, so just a couple of things that I would like to say, and I hope everybody just take it from a different perspective, right? First of all, everybody knows about the collaborations, which was talking about. Collaborations are very important right now. Now, on the level of the gun violence in Philadelphia, I've lived in California, Florida, Maryland, DC, New York, and mentalities and personalities in the hood are all similar. When we talk about AVP, and this is why I'm thankful for the collaboration that I was blessed with by coming through with Penn Injury Science Center with Sarah Solomon, the district attorney's office with under their crisis response service in the homicide division, under Myra Maxwell, also under AVP, under Natasha McGlynn, and which they do victim services and counseling. Ms. Kaufman, I really appreciate you again because you did a wonderful job at your presentation at our march and rally that we had about a few weeks ago. So I appreciate you. But I like to say, like, I hear the compassion in everybody, but this situation for us come with compassion and pain. I lost 8 victims in my family to gun violence. My closest victim was my sister, my only sister. She was murdered in a home invasion in 2009. I had my mother's sister who was murdered in a domestic situation years ago, who was my favorite aunt. I have a 3-year-old grandnephew who was murdered by his father in a domestic situation and he also tried to murder the mother, my niece, as well as, but he killed himself. I had a cousin who was murdered just recently in a domestic situation, shot in the head. But when I talk about these issues, it's pain for me, but it ain't the pain that I had before. Now other people's pain is my pain. Other people's pain has become my pain. Every day that I'm out here, I cry every day of my life because this comes from 5 generations of inner city situations. It's 5 generations, but it's never none that been like it has been today. Every generation is worse than the last generation. And this is a fact. So when I talk with compassion as well as pain. So every time people come and they want to sit down, like the collaborators around me are the educated and these entities are successful. I'm grassroots. I'm from the muscle. I'm from the gut. I gotta bring it how it needs to be bought. I was listening to a conversation on the radio Sunday. And in this conversation, and this is something that I say all the time, this here gun violence is vast. It's so vast, right, that it has to be updated continuously every day. Every situation has to be updated. When we talk about the domestic violence, how the women and children are being murdered now, I've never seen this like this a day in my life. It's a people problem. The people has to get involved. Years ago, when a woman or child was murdered, the penitentiaries sent word on the streets, find that killer. The streets shut down, find that killer. And the killer turned himself in. A lot of these youth have not been raised by good families, good homes, good situations. But it's deeper than that because when we sit up here and we talk about the problem is racism, poverty, education, jobs, right? That's a part of it, but it's deeper than that. It's way deeper than that. And a lot of times when they hear that these young men that's doing these murders are killing, the first thing they say is they take it to a mental health level. It's not always mental health. It's trauma and dysfunction. It's trauma and dysfunction. It's pain. So when we go ahead and we try to give them the things that people think that they need, right? By a job or something like this. A job is no good, it's null and void to these youth and these young men, ages 21 to 35. A job is no good to them if you haven't reached their pain and their problem. Because the therapy is inside. A lot of times when people make their theories and things like this, they haven't listened to the person, to these people. One-on-one is not working anymore. Everything has to be done in an open forum because the children are killing the adults and the adults are killing the children now. So we always need, right? Like you can have the books, and I do respect the books. Don't get me wrong. I do respect the theories. Don't get me wrong. But like I said, it's more vast than that. But one thing that the books and the theories and the hypotheses and everything else can't do is update as fast as this stuff is happening. I can update it. People like me can update it as fast as it's happening because we know what it is. Like I said, I've seen 5 generations. When we look at these numbers, right, if that number right there, that's just an 11-day total of murders, which is 22 murders in 11 days. This is the scenario. And when you look at the other side, right, when you talk about the murders, like it's 44 in January, 25, and as it fluctuates, one thing for sure is almost a murder a day. Some days it's 4. And if I can remember when I was reading some stuff, one of these months between the 4th and the 7th month, it had only one day. It was on the 18th that didn't have a murder. I'm sorry, I'm just boisterous, right? So please, like, just bear with me, right? Please bear with me, right? I beg for collaborations. I beg for people to see it the way that it's happening, and stop looking at it on one level of book sense and documentaries and things like this. It has to be updated. We have to, like, it's many people in Philadelphia in all different situations, all different levels. A lot of people got solutions, and I'm not saying that the solutions are never good solutions, because they are validity in them. There are validity in them. I refuse, right, to keep hearing from the people when they say to me, they say, Khalif, we love what you're doing and how you're doing it, but please don't let us put us on a picture of mental health for everything or a theory for everything, because they feel violated and they don't want to give no answers. They don't want to give no answers. There's a way that we can get answers together. And like I keep saying, we must come interracial, interfaith. It has to be like that, because in these communities, especially because we know where the inner cities where the crime is happening at. We know where it's happening at. In the African-American communities. I'm sorry to say this, but it's real. My goal, right, is to slow it down in the African-American community and try not to let it go to any other communities, like a pandemic. People think that the pandemic was holding things down. The pandemic did nothing to stop this here violence. The pandemic did nothing, because people were still out there committing the murders. If you look at January, February, and March, we were still in the pandemic. And if you go back last year, you get the same number. We was in the pandemic. This problem can be tackled in a good way. I think that It's a lot of things like one of the things that the Beloved Care Project do. The Beloved Care Project brings beloved care, not loving care, because love done played out for the people. They don't want to hear I love you, because I love you is just a cliche, man. It's just a mad figure of speech right now. They need their love. Because these young men and women that's doing these killing, they don't know and believe in anybody no more. Because they can't believe in their own homes. They can't believe in their own neighborhoods. Because you know what? And I'm hard on the men, because the men left their families a long time ago and only made it worse. Because our old heads never treated us the way that these young boys and young girls are being treated. The women have a hard job too. But then when we look at the music, when we look at the social media, when we look at the reality shows, these are all the things that they copy off. A 13-year-old boy, his old head now is 13 or 11 years old. It's the blind leading the blind. I go out in these cities, right? This is what I do. Everybody around me is a safe haven on the inside. I have a safe haven too in the Beloved Care Project, but it's bigger than the safe haven inside for me. It gotta be a safe haven on the streets. If there's no safe haven on the street, how can there be a safe haven on the inside? So where do we start? We start the way that I know that for me, how I start, it's because I do rallies. I do rallies inside of the neighborhoods against gun violence. We don't pick up no numbers because nobody's out there caring. I do rallies, and then I go outside of my neighborhood to bring awareness to people that I know that the crime is about to spread. I done did Rittenhouse Square. I done did Marconi Park on Broad, Oregon. I done did 2nd and Brown. I done did Temple University. And let me tell you something, after doing Temple University, I caught a lot of pain when that man lost his life. I cried that night, all night long, because my conviction, I know is there. At the same token, everybody is responsible for somebody's life. I'm responsible for everybody's life in Philadelphia. That's how I look at it. That's the job I want to take on. Because I was of these streets. I was from these streets. I'd rather die with my life for saving these streets, the people in these streets, because the streets is not the problem, it's the people in the streets, than to die the way that I was living before. And when I was in the street, I was a target. I didn't care about being a target because I was the man. And I was educated, yes. I went to college. Yes, I had a 3.5 grade average. I come from a good family. I got street sense, common sense, and book sense. But I had a choice that I made on my own. These gun slingers now don't have a choice. Because if they're not ignorant, they're not cool. Right? Then when we look at, then I do, and this is why I do these rallies around the city, because there's a call for support. We need support because there's strength in numbers. There's no numbers. Everything is on with people talking about here on this here session, this Zoom meeting, this Zoom, but where's the numbers? The numbers is what will make a difference, because one thing for sure, the people that's having these problems, when they see some numbers and they see it interracial, they have hope. They have hope because they tired of hearing the hoopla of what's going on. The politicians giving these hooplas, I'm sorry for your loss and things of this nature, right? You know what I mean? And people saying, I'm sorry for your loss. They tired of hearing, I'm sorry for your loss. Man, they're not even listening to that no more. It's about reaching them. Then I do things called listening to the children, listening to the teenagers. This is another event that I take all over the city. I want to try to put in the school because I've spoken in school districts and I spoke on other functions. But once you listen to the children and the teenagers and the young adults, you find out that they have the answers because they living in it. But first you have to build a trust. And you have to build the trust that they can see the trust, but you got to bring someone in with you that they can trust. So when I walk in the door with the people, right, they already trust me, but they're going to trust the people because they feel like they're being saved by interracial, interfaith people. People that come in as doctors, lawyers, teachers, and things of this nature, because this is what have never been offered to them. They hear it on one level. Then I do healing sessions. In my healing sessions, we do 8 to 10 week sessions. And what we do in these sessions is we bring out that pain in them. Therapists say, oh, no, that's not a good idea not to bring out the pain. You have to bring us out of our pain. You have to bring our children out of their pain. You have to bring these young adults who's following behind these children, because now the adults is not teaching the children. See, and I feel as though we got to work from the communities to get in the families. But when I came up, we worked from the family to get into the community. And that's how things worked out better. But now we got to work from the communities to get to the family. And we deal with topics in this 8 weeks, like a father in my life, a mother in my life, a father in my life, a mother in my life, a mother's love for a child, no child left behind, crime is not an option, mental and suicide project, the importance of education, neighborhoods together, women are essential, respect for the elders, motivation for success, mental and physical abuse, and many more. And the reason why we tackle these here is because, see, when these children sit down in an open forum and they know that they are safe, because, see, they're not doing the one-on-ones. You're not going to get nothing out of them like this. But when they sit down in these open forums and they hear from someone else when they talk about the effects of not having a father in their life, or their father's been in prison or things of this nature, the first thing they do is they listen and they become relaxed. Then by the time you get to the second and the third, you'll start hearing the pain come out of them. And then they'll give you the answers about why, who has the guns, where the guns from. They know somebody that has a gun. All this stuff will come out for us, right? So and then also we do the healing session. But then last thing I do street monitoring. When I go to the sites where these victims are murdered at, and I go to these streets and I stay on these corners with signs showing support, because they're not getting the support, but they're afraid to come out. I just took this park from in our neighborhood, and I'm turning that into a peace park. So because the people want to see you doing some things, right? But they want to see how it's coming, and they want to see it with, like I said, dear love and care, because they don't have hope in that park yet until they see it built. And I've used that park to have many rallies already. And they always watch from a distance. They never actually came to them. They came down the street or up the street, but they're there. This is when we was in Rittenhouse Square. This was before we collaborated with the district attorney's office and the Penn Injury Science Center. This was the day when we had the shooting down there, and they wanted to give a press conference, right? Things of trying to shut the city down for the state of emergency. Shutting it down for the state of emergency is very important, but nobody's listening to us. So the numbers go up, and now we collaborated with Dr. Myra. She's the one in the blue now from the district attorney's office. And that's the Tasha from the AntiViolence Partnership. And that's my old team. And those signs are the signs that I wear. This was an event that I did up 60th and Reinhardt, trying to pull the neighborhood together, because it's been so far that they have been together, right? People are getting this money, but they're not doing the work. I don't get paid for none of this. I do this. I done put $40,000 of my money into this project, but I don't care, because that's what I chose, and I don't have a complaint. It's not about the money for me. It's about the support, because once the support comes, the job will be much more easier. This was Edison High School the week before the young man that was shot 18 times. And he was shot 18 times and 35 times. He went to the school. This was that week before. In that top corner is a group of young men in the picture. In that corner. I had problems with them young men that day while we was down here, right? But after I sat and they talked and they listened, they wanted attention. That's all they wanted. They was real rowdy and rude and everything, but they wanted attention. And the next day we went down there, the young man was the same way. He was Rudy. And we had to calm him down, then his murder. This is what I know about listening to the children. because these not even teenagers yet. I went down Marconi Park for awareness, a call for support. The parents never came over. And I have gift cards, I have toys, I have food, I have everything when I go out here. But the children rode around as they heard me talk. As they hear me talk, they sitting around watching. So I said, you know what, let me just use my head, Khalif, and turn this into a youth rally and listen to the children at the same time. But I asked for permission from the parents. Can they come and be a part? And if you see in the background, that's when you see the parents start coming apart. And we asking these here children, you can tell that they even know the answers because the little girl is holding the mic. She even said, I said, what do you think we could do? This is a 9-year-old child, said we could do more protests. So like I've done the work, right? I want to do more work with everybody here and anybody that will have me, right? This here is for me, it's sincere. It's about conviction. Right now we're at 221 murders. We left out last year at 499 murders. Again, I could tell you, we will see 460 to 470 murders before this year now. Right now, we can't worry about the murders in December. We have to worry about what we need to do starting next year. And December is the time that we need to take this time out and figure out what we're going to do for next year. Because these murders now, once upon a time, they were all in the neighborhood. And then it was black on black in the African-American community, in the inner cities, in the Spanish communities, or wherever they were, in the poor people communities, right? But now it's by any means necessary. This is why the young man was murdered, by any means necessary. But we must bring awareness to the students, to the colleges, to the grown-ups. We got to take this around and start bringing awareness, because awareness is also going to be a deterrent for these young people trying to commit these here things. So I thank y'all very much. If there's anything I missed, I'm sorry. Thank y'all for having me.